Back here, closing it out here this morning on this Wednesday, getting back to the LSU football, a little bit of LSU baseball, like I said, with one of the best in the business, Sports Illustrated, Zack Nagy, joining us. Zack, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man, doing good on this end. Sorry about those little technical difficulties started off, but ready to talk some LSU football, some baseball. Obviously, recruiting's been booming. Jay Johnson's doing what he does best, and ready to talk some ball.
Yeah, no, I'll just get it started kind of open-ended on all fronts. The news wire, it's been the last 2 weeks. What has it been like just from your standpoint of just, it seems like every day you wake up, you get your day started, and then at some point in the day there's some news that breaks for either LSU football or LSU baseball.
Yeah, dude, it feels like since Omaha, business has been booming, right?
Right.
You got Lamar Brown, the July 4th, July 10th weekend following Isaiah Washington on the football front. You got a bunch of guys that are just popping left and right, and Brian Kelly and company are really starting to hit the ground running, top 10 class in the 2026 cycle. And then Jay Johnson, I mean, not that many words need to be said on what he's doing. It's phenomenal. It's that reload and reconstruct mode for that roster, and you're starting to see it come together really quickly. So yeah, man, business is booming, and it can't really stop with LSU. A lot of people like to talk about how July is this period where things are kind of slow and maybe you can take a vacation or two, but no, I haven't had the chance to do any of that. It's been straight work mode, but it's been good. It's been good. Can't complain.
Yeah, and then on the LSU football front, away from kind of recruiting and more of like this front office staff that they've put together, the modernization of LSU football, Austin Thomas has called it. Break down some of those additions they've made in Martin, Petito, Bolden, and what they mean for the future of LSU football.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see kind of like what you said, spot on, is that front office mode and that modernization of kind of front office college football. It's a changed game now. You're dealing with basically salary caps. You're dealing with a bunch of extracurriculars that you've never had to deal with before. And it starts now with what Austin Thomas is doing on the back end behind the scenes. He is probably one of the most important hires that LSU has made in quite some time, and you're starting to see them reap the benefits of that. Look what he's doing now. He's spearheading the push for guys like Kelvin Bolden, Sam Petito, and Jeff Martin. And Kelvin Bolden is one that I'm circling as one that can be extremely impactful. You're starting to see Mississippi start to produce some of the top prospects in America. And LSU's gone in there already and gotten players like Emmanuel Tucker, obviously Bryson Cooley now, and you're trying to hold on to Tristan Keys. But Kelvin Bolden's a guy who's a Mississippi native, has helped recruit that state in a big way for Ole Miss in the past. And now you pair him next to Director of Recruiting Donovan Tate, you're in a pretty good spot moving forward in that state. So for me, that's one of the biggest hires that they could have made. And then you put on top of that Jeff Martin and the relationships that he has, and not many words need to be said for Sam Petito. This is a guy who's an elite level recruiter, elite level relationships guy. So what they're doing is pretty phenomenal on that front. And obviously it helps behind the scenes with Austin Thomas and developing NIL and whatnot. But the relationships aspect is what really moves the needle for me.
Yeah, and then kind of talking about that same thing, but kind of the big picture of it. I talked about it the other day, and I kind of used the analogy of like it's a puzzle. And it seems like LSU's kind of put the puzzle pieces together. Like you have this front office staff that you just talked about, the coaching staff at LSU from a on-the-field coaching and a recruiting standpoint feels like it's as good as it gets. And then the roster that they've put together, and like you said, the NIL support as well. Does it feel like all those puzzle pieces are kind of coming together right now for LSU?
Yeah, man. The word that Brian Kelly likes to use is being aligned. And the goal since he got here 3-4 years ago was to get the program aligned in the right direction. And there's so many different pieces to that puzzle that need to be put together, right? Whether it's recruiting, NIL, development, etc. I think you're starting to see them click on all cylinders. And I don't want to sit here and put these lofty expectations on the program right now, of course, but it's a college football playoff or bust season for LSU, and I think everybody knows that. This isn't really kind of a casual it's kind of a casual take. It isn't one that's lofty by any means, but you're seeing them get aligned in every way. Austin Thomas is helping on the NIL front. You're seeing him put together that front office staff. From a development perspective, you have Blake Baker and Joe Sloan back for year 2. At the coordinator position. You've seen some phenomenal off-field hires. You're starting to see that development aspect really make a move. So for me, they are becoming aligned. Brian Kelly is making it happen right now off the field. Spring camp was great, seeing these guys gel. You have the #1 transfer portal class in America. And now it's kind of time to put it all together on the field, and fall camp will show that next month. And then obviously you got Clemson week 1 to kind of see if they did it right and see if they can make things happen.
Zach, real quick, y'all are talking about putting like a puzzle piece together. I have you named some of the names: Austin Thomas, Joe Sloan, Blake Baker. Who do you think is the actual orchestrator of all of this? Because for my opinion, I do have to think these are hires that feel very much related to Scott Woodward. The relationships, whenever you talk about Petito, you talk about grabbing Austin Thomas, and he was very well aware of what LSU was doing when they had Austin Thomas. Like, it feels like these are coming from on high, because these aren't relationships that I would say that Brian Kelly had.
Yeah, Scott Woodward orchestrated that hire to get Austin Thomas in the mix, and that's obviously who's spearheading this push is Austin Thomas. I mean, what he's doing in that general manager role is phenomenal, but to your point, yeah, Scott Woodward's the man. I mean, there's a reason why this athletic department is booming right now, whether it's Jay Johnson, Kim Mulkey, Matt McMahon's getting things steered in the right direction. And then, obviously, on the football front, you see what they're doing off the field. So, yeah, Scott Woodward is piecing this together, and the pieces that he's bringing in are kind of helping from the top down, if that makes sense. It starts with Scott Woodward, then goes to a guy like Austin Thomas, and so on. So, it's working. What they're doing, whatever their new strategic plan is working in a big way. And we started to see it happen really around that December timeframe when they started in the portal. And it feels like they just hit the ground running ever since.
And then continuing on with LSU football, a little bit more on this year's roster. Obviously, the transfer portal class that they put together was the best in the country. And to me, part of the biggest thing is when you look at like the defense, you're going to see upwards of 8 or more people or players on the field that weren't in purple and gold last year at some times on this defense, really outside of that linebacker room. Like Mansour Delane at corner, both of your starting safeties potentially with Cooley and Halsey, Sadir Mitchell, and the edge rushers, Peyton, Butler, Pyburn, guys like that. Like you could see a defense that has a whole lot of players and pieces that weren't playing for LSU last season. Talk about that portal class and kind of what LSU was able to do building it this offseason.
Yeah, I think when you look at the #1 transfer portal class in America, you're seeing kind of this team prepare to throw double-digit newcomers out on that field. Whether it's guys, like Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton, etc. It's significant. It's significant. And guys like Mansour Delane are getting swept under the rug, in my opinion, just because he's such a Swiss Army knife. He's not necessarily this phenomenal player at one position. He's just very good at so many different things. So when you look at the portal class, it starts with the defensive side of the ball. You're intrigued with guys like Halsey, Mansour Delane, Sadir Mitchell, etc. But offensively is obviously where your bread and butter is going to be. You return Garrett Nussmeier and you give him an embarrassment of riches on the outside. Nick Anderson, Barry Brown, Destin Hill, etc. Offensively is where I'm intrigued to see what can happen there. But man, these portal additions are phenomenal. It's hard to not be excited about what they're doing there. I expect double-digit newcomers to make an impact this season.
And as Buddy Sanji would say, all of these portal additions are very much lingerie. It all looks very sexy on the outside, but where games are won and lost are in the trenches. And when you look at what LSU has done on the offensive line, would that be your #1 cause for concern? Just because if you're not able to give Nussmeier time, you see what happens whenever he is put under pressure, the mistakes that he's been kind of prone to making. Is there a concern on the offensive line at all whenever you add some pieces from the portal, but they don't seem to make an instant impact in terms of playing time?
First of all, Buddy Sanji is the absolute man.
The legend.
Fantastic, man. He's an absolute dog. That's the guy. That's the man. I love Buddy. That's a legend right there. And getting back to the offensive line, yeah, this is a spot for me where this team can go as far as the offensive line takes them. You're looking at 4 new starters up front, and your weakest link from last season back in DJ Chester, who's really shown that he's prepared to take that next step. So the offensive line is a position of weakness going into the fall, but I think it's one that they can make a position of strength if Brad Davis can get that puzzle piece put together. Noah, earlier we were sitting there talking about kind of this puzzle of the organization or the program as a whole. So let's talk about the puzzle within this offensive line. You're replacing so many guys with Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Garrett Dellinger, and Miles Frazier departing, you got to put that together. And you have a ton of guys that are not necessarily experienced, but they're skilled. And I'm intrigued to see how they do that. Obviously, Tyree Adams is a player that has sat behind Will Campbell for a while and taken notes. But then you have guys like Paul Mabenga, who struggled last year. Can he take that next step? Weston Davis was a 5-star out of high school. Can he live up to that 5-star status? And then you have Josh Thomas and Braylon Moore, those two guys who are going to be competing for some big-time reps this year. So there's an embarrassment of riches in the trenches, but it's just about finding that right puzzle or the right pieces to make that puzzle together. So for me, yeah, the O-line is a spot that I'm just going to be circling in fall camp and trying to see if they can find that right rotation moving forward.
And then sticking with LSU football, I want to talk about this freshman class that they've brought in that's on campus now. You know, you've seen the videos of Carius Kern bench pressing whatever the gaudy numbers were that he was doing in the weight room, and then obviously the talk about guys like Pickett and Barry. Who are some of the guys in this freshman class? Obviously, this defense and this team really as a whole is kind of an older bunch. You know, you have guys that are experienced that you've brought in from the portal. So you don't exactly need these young guys to come out and answer a bunch of questions and fill these massive roles. But who are some of the guys that you see making an impact in 2025?
Yeah, for that video of Carius is ridiculous. 425 pounds. I mean, I sat back. I'm like, what are we doing? This guy's an absolute menace. So for me, obviously, Carius Kern's the one that I'm sitting back and I'm like, okay, this guy's going to be pushing some veterans for playing time early. Brian Kelly said on National Signing Day that this is a guy who's SEC ready from a physical standpoint, or a physicality standpoint. So Carius Kern obviously is that casual take, right? This is one that I'm going to sit back and say, yeah, I expect him to make some plays on Saturdays in the trenches. And DJ Pickett, again, we know that. This is a 6'4", 190-pounder who Corey Raymond has circled as his guy. So those are two guys on each side of the ball that are pretty, casual for me to sit back and say. But Zion Williams is a player that I'm really intrigued about moving forward. This is a guy who we've already seen. We want to talk about Carius Kern in the weight room. We can talk about Zion Williams too, squatting over 600 pounds. This is a guy whose lower body is extremely strong. He drives really well with his feet. A player that Whit Weeks circled at SEC Media Days as a guy who's really impressed him so far. So defensive lineman Zion Williams is a player that I really want to see if he can take that next step in fall camp and carve out a role on this defensive line. It's going to be a challenge. Obviously, you got Dominic McKinley, Ahmad Breaux, Sadir Mitchell, Shone Washington, the return of Jacoby and Guillory. So his path to playing time is a little bit unique. But Zion Williams is a guy that I'm pretty intrigued with moving into fall camp. I think as a true freshman, he could really make an impact. So intrigued there. And then the second level, Jaden Breaker. I think that this is a gamer. His film doesn't lie. I like to say a lot of times numbers can lie, and women lie, men lie, all that stuff, but the film doesn't lie. When you grind the tape, this is a guy that really sticks out like a sore thumb. He's big, strong, and physical, and he arrived over the summer, so a lot of people have him flying under the radar since we didn't get to see him during spring camp. But I think he has an opportunity to see the field in year one. Jaden Breaker and Zion Williams are two guys that are flying under the radar for me that could really make an impact in year one.
And then turning the page to LSU baseball, just the past couple of days, there was some discourse on social media and here and there during the draft and after the MLB draft of just what LSU was going to look like after losing 9 guys to the draft. And then obviously Fry goes early, and that takes away the conversation of him returning. And then 8 high school signees also get drafted and are on the way out. And then Jay Johnson just turns around and does a complete mood boost yesterday with 2 massive transfer portal additions. Talk about the job Jay Johnson has done and what those 2 additions yesterday mean to this baseball program.
Yeah, Jay Johnson's a recruiting guru. There's not too much to say on that. I mean, he is just absolutely sensational on the recruiting trail. And everybody likes to say Jay Johnson gets what he wants, and it's a fact. I mean, he is the most put together head coach that I feel like I've been around in quite some time. He's strategic, he's savvy, he's an elite level recruiter. He does it all, and there's a reason why he's won 2 natties in the last 3 years. And once the MLB draft ended late Monday night, he went to work. You saw them get Angelo State right-handed pitcher Dax Days, a guy who was phenomenal at the Division II level. You got him in the mix as well to join that pitching staff. And then the next day you start to see guys like Tanner Reed, Zach Cowan, Chris Stanfield all announced their returns to the program. And then boom, you get Zach York from Grand Canyon, who's an absolute slugger, by the way. This is he fits that hefty lefty role. I mean, 6'2", 295. This is an absolute beast of a player. I mean, he is a monster, and he can rake. So Jay Johnson's excited about what he can provide this program, obviously. And then you get your big fish, right, from Oregon State, Trent Carraway, a player who dominated the Corvallis Regional. I mean, the most outstanding player for a good reason, blasted a handful of home runs, a guy who, if you can put him together, Noah, this is a guy that I'm really, really intrigued about. I'm not going to sit here and put first, second round label on this guy in the MLB draft, but this is one that MLB evaluators and MLB scouts are extremely intrigued about if he can put it all together. We'll use the puzzle piece analogy for the third time, right? If he can put it all together, this is a guy who could be the most impactful transfer if he puts it together. He's a really, really talented player. So for me, that's really the big fish right there. So yeah, over those last 24, 36, 48 hours, Jay Johnson's reconstructed this roster, had some big-time returnees, big-time additions, and they've really entered that reload mode in Baton Rouge.
Do you think he's done?
No, I don't think Jay Johnson's done. I'll never say Jay Johnson's done, man. He does things that I never expect. Sometimes I'm caught off guard with the moves that he's making, but no, I wouldn't be shocked to see him make one or two more additions before it's all said and done.
To put you on the spot, what do you think that would be? Obviously added, 3 left-handed pitchers. You saw, obviously he was impacted by the Major League Baseball draft, and you see the moves he's made after. I don't think these were on a whim, but you see the position players he's added where you have a finite amount of spots on the defensive end, but if he had to add another piece, what do you think that would be?
Yeah, I think you lost almost double-digit signees to the draft. One of those moves could be him potentially getting a guy to not sign and to get him to campus. You saw some players get drafted after the 10th round. So one of the moves could be potentially getting a signee to campus. And then looking at some defensive players, yeah, you're pretty stacked there. Maybe another pitching, a guy to add the pitching staff, a right-hander. I know, like you said, you've added a bunch of guys there, but to get another right-hander in the mix would be a pretty solid move to just boost that depth even more. So Jay Johnson's proven he's not afraid to go out and get some guys just in case. We saw him go get Connor Benj last year to add him to the mix as just a kind of a backup plan just in case. So no, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go get one or two guys, and even if one or two of those guys includes a signee who doesn't sign an MLB contract.
How big of a deal is it that Jay Johnson is keeping this entire staff intact going from 25 to 26 and the work they've done this offseason, and that it just seems like Yeski, Jordan, go down the list of guys are sticking around as they were looked at as the best staff in college baseball, and nobody's headed out currently to go anywhere else?
Yeah, it's huge, man. It's a testament to the efforts of Jay Johnson in every way. We know the product that he can put on the field, but what he does behind the scenes is ridiculous. Everybody likes to use the analogy, does he sleep? Does he do anything besides eat, sleep baseball? No. And no, I mean, this is a guy who just strictly lives and breathes the game. And the coaching staff knows it. You have a guy like Josh Jordan, who was obviously in the mix for that Duke job, but being in Baton Rouge is where he wants to be. And to keep him on this staff is huge. Nate Yeski, huge. I mean, these are elite guys in the college game. So it's big time to keep this staff intact. And then you return guys from that championship roster. It's hard to not be intrigued about what 2026 can offer. You got some dudes from last year. You keep that staff intact. It speaks volumes. And again, kind of reiterate that it's just a testament to the man that Jay Johnson is and really what he's done over the last couple of months and years since being in Baton Rouge.
And he's always had the moniker, at least for 2024, 2025, the championship year, of like tough and together. And when you see all these signees pop up on Twitter, the first people to react are people that are already on the team, like Kate Aaron Beatty. You've seen the reaction to Stanfield. Like, you just see all of the guys that are on the team to be able to have like a positive influence where you would think that they would want maybe not as much competition, but I really do think that Jay has bred a level of that they want that, and they want more pieces just to win a championship.
Yeah, I think this team, or just the program as a whole, is really put together right now. You even see guys like when Ashton Larson transfers to Texas, you see Stephen Milam on Twitter commenting. You see all these dudes commenting and kind of clowning on him and stuff. Josh Pearson putting horns down and stuff. I mean, it's just they're having fun, and you got to see guys like Kate Beatty in the dugout just having a good time, doing what the little frat flick and stuff in the dugout. I mean, dude, he's having a good time. Like, these guys are just having some fun every single game, every single inning. I mean, the team is so put together here. It starts with Jay Johnson at the top, and then you talk about the rest of the staff like Josh Jordan and Nate Yeske, keeping them aligned in the right way. They're just having fun. The chemistry and continuity is there. We saw that. There's a reason why they're natty champs. And I don't think you're going to see them slow down on that camaraderie front. I think Jay Johnson knows what it takes, obviously, to get guys aligned. And you're going to start to see more of that heading into 2026.
Last one, back to football to close it out. What are your expectations for the 2025 season for LSU?
It's hard to not sit here and think that they haven't pushed all the right buttons to be a college football playoff team. That schedule is daunting. I was going through it on a show the other day, kind of game by game and giving predictions, and I was thinking to myself, damn, like this is a pretty challenging schedule. And I know it's the SEC, and I know that it's a casual take, but man, like, it is a pretty difficult slate for this team this year. Expectations-wise, it's a college football playoff or bust year for this team. There's a reason why you went all in during the offseason to go make some big-time hires, to go and put together the #1 transfer portal class in America. It's an all-in year for Brian Kelly. Year 4 is that year that he has to get over the hump and reach the college football playoff. So for me, it's a 10-2 season. I'm not quite sure 9-3 would be good enough for this LSU fan base. We know how fiery they are, and I'm not quite sure that they'd be okay with 9 wins. So for me, I got to sit back and say that it's a college football playoff or bust year for them. Expectations-wise, that's where it's at. You bring back Garrett Nussmeier. You add just, again, I'll use the same cliche, an embarrassment of riches on the outside to help him out and give him more weapons to work with. Defensively, you reloaded in a big way. So it's a college football playoff or bust for me, Noah. I think that they really have the opportunity to do that. The schedule is daunting, but you have the playmakers to really get over the hump and get this team steered in the right direction.
Especially with Nick Saban looming.
Man, I got asked about that yesterday. I'm not even kidding, dude. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm on a show, and somebody's asking me, do you think Nick Saban potentially being back in college football makes Brian Kelly more nerve-wracking or more like nervous? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a $50 million buyout for Brian Kelly or something. So I don't know. I was sitting back. I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. I was like, absolutely.
Well, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, guys, let's do it. Y'all have a good one.
Yep. You too. There he is, Zack Nagy from Sports Illustrated. Great stuff, great information. Like I said, go follow him on Twitter at @znaggy20. He is as good as it gets on social media. He gets the news out like that. He's one of the quickest in the LSU news realm, and he does a really, really good job with fall camp and his practice breakdowns and things like that. We will have him on